All right, welcome to the I8FA State Championship. We're here live at Monmouth College, getting ready for a great battle between two teams that have been ranked top 3 all season long, and that is the Amboy Clippers and the Polo Marcos. Joe, obviously, this is your first time here at the state championships. Not. But at the same token, this is a great opportunity here for the Marcos as they return to the state championship for the first time since 2021 and their third time here as well. And obviously, Amboy is now here for the 4th consecutive year. Both teams looking for their three-peat here. Mm-hmm. Give us a little bit of insight on what we're going to see out of both teams here without going into your keys to the game yet. But at the same time, then we can start talking about what the starting lineups are going to look like. But first, we'll talk about the stars. Let's talk about the stars that we expect to see here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Kyle, guys, going back to last week, you look for Amboy, Jose Lopez, the running back, he had 29 carries, and Mercer Mumford Polo, he had 27 carries. So I think you're going to hear those two names a lot tonight, obviously. I think it's kind of one of those, dance with the girl that you took to the dance. Don't go away from what you did all season to get here. And I think both of these teams, you're going to see two very well-coached teams here tonight, teams that know how to block, they know how to tackle, teams that like to control the ball. So it's going to be a little bit like looking in the mirror for both of these teams here tonight. I'm looking forward to a fun game here tonight.
Zachary, this is your first time at the state championships for 8-man football, correct?
Yes. Yeah, it is.
Is this your first 8-man state or first 8-man game you've taken in, or have you taken in a couple?
No, I've taken in a couple before.
Okay, good. So for those that don't know, this is Zachary Shimon, also known as Shim Dog. You see him a lot on Twitter. Obviously, he's the guy that put out a bunch of posts on our Facebook page. Going to do videography for us along in a joint effort with View from the West. So we're excited to have you along for the ride here, Zachary.
Definitely happy to be here.
Have you been able to see Polo or Amboy play yet this year?
Just on film, not in person, though.
So what's your thoughts on what we could expect to see here tonight?
A lot of running the ball. Like Joe said, a lot of carries for the workhorses tonight. Yeah.
So when you take a look at both these teams, both of them are going to have 3 all-staters.
Right.
For Polo, you have the first teamer in Mercer Mumford and the first teamer in Damon Rao. And then surprisingly, an honorable mention all-state selection in Wyatt Plackno, who was a first-team all-state selection last year. When you flip to the other side of the ball for the Clippers, one person that we don't see on this all-state list this year is Jose Lopez, the lead running back for the Amboy Clippers, one of the league leaders in rushing, not on the all-state list. That's kind of a big snub right there, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, obviously, though, Kyle, we know there's a lot of good backs in 8-man football. A lot of teams that score a lot of points. Amboy, I would say a couple things for them early in the season. They were using, all season they've used Lopez, Caden Heath, Colt McCoy, So Lopez isn't necessarily always that guy that's going to get the 25 carries. A lot of games he had 5-6 carries, and Amboy's winning the blowouts, and he maybe wasn't putting up the numbers as some of these other guys. So I think that probably has something to do with it. But if you're picking guys to be in your backfield, I mean, Jose Lopez is near the top of that list for me.
Oh, yeah. I think anybody is going to take a Jose Lopez on their team because of what he can provide for you both offensively and defensively. Not a big guy, but he plays bigger than his size. Very physical.
He looks very big in pads, though, Kyle.
That he does. He does look like a monster there for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But for Amboy, you do have first teamers in the lineman Trevor Stenzel and wide receiver Cody Wynn, and then the honorable mention all-state selection in Evan Flanagan. And Flanagan has been a huge disruption force on the defensive side of the ball for the Clippers all this year, and of course going back to last year as well.
Yeah, for sure. Flanagan, he made a name for himself last year in the playoffs, and he's continuing that this year. And you mentioned Trevor Stenzel, first-team All-Stater. He started last year at guard for the Clippers on offense. Didn't play defense last year, but this year he's also played defense. They got him and Flanagan on the left side of that defensive line. I mean, that's that's two tough guys up front for the Clippers on the front of that line.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. So, when you take a look at what Stenzel's done and the fact that Amboy is going to run a 4-man defensive front compared to Polo running a 3-man
Right.
defensive front. So we're going to see two different styles of defense there. Give us a run through on what we expect to see out of the starting lineups or who we got starting on both sides of the ball here for Polo and Amboy.
Yeah, so for Polo here, Kyle, let's take a look at their defense first. And for defense, of course, you mentioned the 3-man front. You got two of those 3 guys are all-staters, Damon Rao, and then you got Wyatt Placknell at that nose guard. And that 3-man front only works, Kyle, if you got somebody at nose guard that can control the whole middle. And Wyatt Placknell, he's done that for the Marcos all season. The other guy up front for Polo is the junior defensive end, Ethan Dewey, who he's really come on here the last half of the season. At the linebacker position for Polo, you got Quentin Hart, and you got the first-team all-conference junior Esteban Salinas, and then also Eli Perez at linebacker as well. And then your defensive backs tonight for Polo, you got the all-stater Mercer Mumford, who I expect him to be on the same side as Cody Wynn. Wherever Wynn goes, I think Mumford's going to go as well. And then you're going to see Jordan Reed is the other cornerback tonight for the Marcos on defense. For that Amboy defense, we already talked about Flanagan and Stenzel on the front of that line. And then you got Loomis and Henry Klein. Klein only a sophomore, playing that right end spot opposite of Flanagan. 2 very good linebackers for the Clippers and Jose Lopez and Caden Heath. Both these guys like to hit. And then at defensive back, you got Cody Wynn and Colt McCoy. So there's the starting lineups defensively. And again, Kyle, both these teams great offenses, but let's be honest, these defenses are a big reason why both these teams are here.
Oh, absolutely. Zachary, we talk about it a lot, and I know that you follow what myself and Joe have said over the whole season and what Greg and Mitch have said. And obviously one of the things that we see a lot of is the talk about 8-man football being all offense.
Mm-hmm.
But realistically, when you take a look, and you can look at years past, even in recent history, the teams that know how to play defense are also the teams that end up here on the turf in Monmouth every year.
Yeah, definitely. Having a solid defense is a really big X factor when it comes to games like this. Being able to change the momentum on any given play.
So speaking of X factors, Zachary, obviously we've heard about Mercer Mumford and Jose Lopez and Caden Heath and Colt McCoy and JT Stevenson. What do you feel would be the biggest X factor in this game for Polo?
Forgot to put something down.
That's all right.
You put them on the spot there.
I did. It's all right. What do you think, Joe?
Well, I really think for Polo, it's do what you've done all season. The main thing for Polo is if they don't turn the ball over tonight, I really think they got a good chance to win this ball game. You give Amboy an extra possession, that could be the difference in the ball game. So 2 low scoring or 2 good defenses. I expect low scoring, but I really think for Polo, you're obviously going to see a lot of Mumford, but it's those times where they choose to mix in Stevenson, or even that time you choose to throw in a pass. It could be the difference in the ball game. So I really think that'll be a big key to the game tonight.
Give us our offensive starters for the Marcos, and then we'll go with the Clippers after that.
All right, so for the Polo Marcos tonight, let's start with the offensive line. At left end, you got the senior Corbin Cavanaugh. Left guard, the senior Danny Johnstone. He was honorable mention all conference selection in the North. The center is Ethan Dewey. Right guard, Esteban Salinas. And the right end is the all-stater Damon Rao. At quarterback, it's the senior JT Stevenson. The fullback is the all-stater Wyatt Placknell. And, of course, the tailback is Mercer Mumford. For the Amboy Clipper offense, on the line, you got the left end, the senior Rylan McNitch. Left guard, the all-stater Trevor Stenzel, the junior. Center, junior Logan Ketchum. Right guard is Colin O'Malley. He's a senior. Cody Wynn, all-stater. He's the right end. You'll see him go out on some pass patterns, obviously. Quarterback, junior Tannen Welch for Amboy. And then Caden Heath and, of course, Jose Lopez, a pair of juniors in that backfield. And again, you'll see a lot of Colt McCoy in there as well. So there are the starting offenses for both teams.
All right, so real quick, I got a clip from Josh Dillon and Sam Ramirez today that's going to play through mostly Amboy stuff, but Coach Ted Alston's in there along with Coach Scott Payne. And then you're also going to hear from a couple guys, Caden Heath and Jose Lopez and Colt McCoy as well. So take a listen to this.
Our team, we like the pressure. We like being able to sit there and say and listen to everyone talk about, oh, Amboy's going to get beat, predicted Amboy to lose, and we love that, and we just want to prove everyone wrong, and it's awesome.
These kids, they work hard, they lift. When they come in as freshmen, we teach them how to lift the right way. We tell them this is exactly what you got to do if you want to be successful, and when these kids are freshmen and sophomores and they see the varsity team having all this success, that's something they can't really argue against, because those kids did the same thing they're doing at that time. And it's all about the kids. The kids have put in all the work. They did all the running in the heat in the summer and went through the doubles and listened to me get on them and everything else. So, the kids deserve the credit. They put in the work to get here, and I'm just so happy for them that they had this opportunity.
Polo's a great team. They do a great job controlling the ball and time of possession. They're good at winning. They win games. So, we're not taking them lightly by any means. We approach every game the same way. Whether we're facing a conference opponent, an 0-9 team, we'll take them the same way as we faced Milledgeville last week.
Amboy is just solid everywhere. They don't have any weaknesses. They're great up front, both sides of the ball. They have just quality running backs and skill position players. And, there just are no weaknesses. So you have to play a really good game. You cannot make mistakes. You have to stay within yourself and your game plan. Otherwise, you can find yourself in a lot of trouble with a team like that.
Atmosphere is going to be insane, as always. Walking out on the field, it's goosebumps every time. It's not going to be no different. But once we get in the game, it's game time. It's ready to go, and we're just going to put our heads down and keep pounding the ball.
It's not about the three-peat. It's not about last year's or the year before. It's like, we got to make our own mark this year. It's about that 2025 trophy. It's not about nothing about the past, and we just got to hit on it. And obviously, it being Polo, we know some of the kids there. I do personally. It's going to be a very good game.
For us, the ninth man, they're great. They show up everywhere. They bring the energy, and they keep driving us through the game. And when they're yelling and hooting and hollering, it just keeps us pushing and keeps our hearts going.
I'm just going to go tell them, this is the last game you're ever going to play. Don't walk off that field with any regrets. Just play as hard as you can every play, and whatever happens, happens.
That last quote right there from Coach Alston, that one's the one that hits home the most, because for all these seniors, very few of these guys are going to go on to play at the next level. So tonight, in the state championship game on this immaculate field here at Monmouth College, is going to be the last night. They get to go out there, boys, put on the pads, strap up the helmet, and get to go hit somebody, and it's legal.
Yeah, you listen to Coach Alston say that, makes you want to go out and put on some pads and get out there, doesn't it?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
And that's the thing. You're playing for your town and your team and the guys in that locker room. And of course, these teams, they both have a lot of juniors, but there's never any guarantee you get back the next year. You don't know what's going to happen next year. So even the juniors and sophomores that are playing, you got to take advantage of this moment here tonight, because there's never any guarantees moving forward. So, but yeah, you play it like it's your last game, you seniors, because it is your last game, so.
It's going to be crazy. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let's take a look at the tail of the tape between these two teams. And obviously a lot of these people, if they paid attention to our social media sites, they've already seen this information. But when you take a look at what these two teams have, both enter with 11-1 records. The Amboy is obviously making their fourth trip to state, their fourth consecutive trip to state. This is their fifth year in I8FA play. In all 5 years, they've been in the semifinals. Polo making their third trip to state, like we said earlier, their first trip since 2021. They too have been in the semifinals every year since the inception of 8-man football as well. And both these teams come in here with 2 state championships. And when you take a look at these two teams defensively, Amboy is allowing 10.7 points per game, while Polo's allowing 14.5 points per game. So we'll talk on that first. You've already said it. these guys, both teams, strong defenses. That's part of the reason why they're here. And it's going to be a lot of fun to see what these two teams can do to stop each other.
Yeah, when you take a look at the defenses, like you said, Amboy only allowing 10 points a game and Pole allowing 14. But you guys, for a lot of those points came in the second half when both these teams have their JV teams in, so those numbers are probably even less than what they really are, guys. That's the scary part. Those numbers should be way less.
Yeah.
So both these teams, again, get it done on the defensive side of the ball, and I can't wait to see the matchups tonight.
So scoring output wise, Amboy has averaged 54.7 points per game, the highest scoring team in all of 8-man football. Polo not too far off either. They're averaging 43.8 points per game. So they're right there as far as that offensive output. And realistically, you have to put the strength of schedule portion on Polo's side. They've definitely faced a tougher schedule throughout the regular season, and they've faced a tougher schedule going in these playoffs as well.
Yeah, for sure. A little bit tougher schedule. Also, 3 of the 12 games for Polo, they were without Mercer Mumford, so you didn't have your starting tailback for 3 of those games. So that makes a difference. Well, Wyatt Plack, missed a game this season as well. So all that stuff factors in, But again, Amboy, regardless of who the opponent's been, they've just instilled their will on the opponent all season long. They don't worry about what the jersey is on the other side of the field, Kyle.
So obviously, talking about Amboy and instilling their will, obviously they had to replace a lot of starters from last season's state championship team. And we talked about it back in the preview show in the preseason. We've talked about it as the season's progressed. They had the loss in week 1 to Milledgeville, 30-22.
Right.
At the same token, they avenged that loss last week in the semifinals, 18-8, where we saw Jose Lopez go for 206 yards rushing. Something that they could not do in that week 1 game was get that run game going. For them to have success tonight, they're definitely going to have to do that as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think you're going to see a lot of Lopez tonight. Like I said, if it worked last week against Milledgeville, you got to think it's going to work just about against anybody, So Milledgeville's got as good a defense as these two teams. So, again, I don't expect Amboy to go too far away from that. But who knows? We'll see what happens. The other thing, though, is if you're Poli, you can't fall asleep on. Be so worried about Lopez, you lose track of Cody Wynn coming out of that right end position.
Well, and we'll definitely touch base on that here because that's going to be a huge factor. I was taking a look at all of Amboy's stats this year. 25 pass completions. 18 of them are to Cody Wynn. 10 of those 18 have gone for touchdowns.
Right, and 12 of Tanner Welch's touchdowns, 10 of them have been to Cody Wynn. He's only thrown touchdowns to 2 different guys. Now, that being said, Amboy hasn't had to pass a lot though either, So it's one of those. I'm sure the Marco coaching staff, they're going to have their attention on Cody Wynn as well. And like I said, that's a type of play, or Wynn's a type of player that could be the game breaker here. He's got that type of talent. Obviously, being an all-stater, but we'll see how that plays out throughout the game and how much Amboy decides to use Wynn in the passing game here tonight.
Yeah, so obviously Amboy got here with a first-round win over Milford Cisna Park, 68-8. They then beat Pawnee 64-6 in a game that, some people felt that maybe Pawnee could compete in that game. And similar to last year, Amboy quieted that down in a hurry. And then round 3 here in the semifinals, they beat Milledgeville 18-8, which was definitely the most anticipated game, I think, of the year
for sure.
Because of the rematch capabilities, the fact that both those teams have been ranked 1-2 all season long. And that game definitely lived up to the billing like it did back in week 1.
Yeah, it certainly did. And when you rattle off those scores, Cal, you just did for the playoffs, and Zach, 3 of the top offenses, 8-man football, Milledgeville, MCP, and Pawnee. Amboy allowed a total of 22 points in those 3 games. Now, when you hear that, you don't have to be a football genius to figure out that's pretty good defense.
Yeah. No.
I mean, 3 of the top offenses MCP, Pawnee, and Milledgeville, and they allowed 22 points in those 3 games.
So taking a look on the other side, Polo had a rematch with Hiawatha that they won 36-14, a little bit of a lower scoring game from the first time.
Right.
But that was also a game that they were minus the All-Stater and Mercer Mumford. Right. Then in the quarterfinals, a game I was fortunate enough to be able to call for TSSR Game Time Live. Shout out to Dwayne Hewlett and his staff, and my co-host Wyatt Reed, who is actually the host of the show. St. Anne won that one 46-14. And then South Fork last week was the game that a lot of people were looking at. They had been able to get past West Carroll by a good amount, 38-14. We saw George Bailey run for over 200 yards in that game. And realistically, I mean, when you're just looking there comparing scores, you're like, okay, Polo beat West Carroll by 10, and South Fork just beat West Carroll by 24 points.
Right.
You start thinking this is going to be a matchup. But we've seen some things change from where that week 3 game played out to where Polo was at come playoff time. And one of those things was the move of Wyatt Plackno to that fullback position, to where he's now setting up as a lead blocker on the strong side of the ball, where you also have another All-Stater and Damon Rouse sitting there at end.
Yeah, you get Rowan Plackno blocking for Mumford. It's hard to stop that as a defense from going for 4 or 5 or 6 yards every time, So, Polo, I think last week, guys, going in that South Fork game, a lot of people probably thought, well, whoever wins that Milledgeville Amboy game is probably going to have a pretty, I don't want to say easy game in the state championship. You never want to say that. But I think after what Polo did to South Fork, I really think a lot of people kind of got, I don't want to say back in the Polo bandwagon, but they're like, okay, maybe Polo's a little bit better than what we thought, and they're going to be able to give Amboy a game here tonight. I think that's kind of the I'm not talking just from a Polo, so I'm just talking about overall in general, maybe people that follow 8-man football. When they held George Bailey to 20 yards, I think Polo got people's attention again last week, if you want to say it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about that. Zachary, what was your thoughts when you saw that Polo South Fork game come out?
I definitely think it was surprising. Not that Polo wasn't capable of winning, but I think the margin was what surprised everyone, then shutting George Bailey down the way they did. I think that was even more eye-opening than the score itself.
Yeah, that was amazing to see. I mean, I was going back through some of those stats here, and I was talking to Coach Hanlon, and first off, I wanted to congratulate him on a great season, because let's be honest, I mean, South Fork, their community, what they did this year was just phenomenal, and the amount of support and backing that they received, along with the excitement around what they built, also captured the entire state audience throughout the course of the season. And that's exactly what I told Coach Hanlon. And I wanted to let him know that, you may not know it now, but you guys captured the audience around the state. And it was a lot of fun to watch. And, he had reiterated, he goes, Polo's good.
Yeah,
they're just really good. And unfortunately, they just couldn't do enough to get anything sustained to even put something together to give Polo a game. Whereas, like you stated earlier this week on our podcast, Polo was able to control the ball for almost 19 minutes of that first half. And that is crucial, especially in a game where you can take control of the ball like that and then be able to put up 3 touchdowns in the first half. It almost makes it insurmountable to come back from.
Right. And the other thing with controlling the ball, when Polo had the ball, that means George Bailey didn't have the ball for South Fork.
Right.
So that's even more important, So yeah, a good defensive effort for Polo last week, and we'll see if Marcos can carry that over here tonight.
All right, so we'll pull that up. We kind of talked about it already, but here's the path to the road to Monmouth, where we're at here tonight for this state championship game between the Polo Marcos and the Amboy Clippers. Obviously, you can see each of their path. Amboy entered as the 5 seed, Polo entering as the 3 seed. And, this ain't the first time we've seen Amboy in that mid-level seed
Right.
and make their way to the state championship game.
Yeah, for sure. And again, we kind of talked about it in our preview show to start the year, Kyle. Whoever lost that Millersville Amboy game was going to probably fall in that 4, 5, 6 range, So we knew it was coming from the beginning of the season, and Amboy, ever since that loss to Millersville, and again, maybe that was a good loss, had a lot of new guys starting roles, and that at the end of the day, it looks like that was probably a good loss and really probably has fueled Amboy all season long, if I was to guess.
On the road to Monmouth, we already know for Amboy what their biggest hurdle was.
Yep.
And that was obviously last week for Milledgeville. Do you feel the same for Polo?
Yeah, I think so. Polo having Hiawatha and St. Anne at home those first 2 weeks, I think was a big advantage. But Polo knew what they were getting into last week. You're going down to South Fork where you knew it was going to be, a whole town there against your 8 guys out on the field. So, and the long road trip and all they had heard about George Bailey and the South Fork offense all season long, So Polo just went in there so focused. And they just took control of the game right from the beginning. But yeah, probably definitely their toughest game of the 3, even though the score may not have looked like it. I would say that was their biggest statement win by far of the playoffs.
All right. Well, let's go into what the keys to the game are. And we'll start with the Polo Marcos. And Zachary, I'm going to start with you. What do you feel are the keys to the game for the Polo Marcos to find success here tonight to gain their 3rd state championship?
I think the first key to the game is they need to limit the Amboy rushing attack. You had mentioned earlier that all 3 of their rushers average 10 yards a carry.
Yeah.
That's as impressive as that is, that's a big X factor on, winning this football game tonight.
Oh, for sure.
And then also they need to make sure they're taking care of the ball if they do decide to throw it. 9 interceptions in less than 70 attempts is troublesome, to say the least. Yeah, that's what I got.
Joe, what you got you're talking for Polo?
For Polo.
Yeah,
we'll start with Polo.
I got 2 things down. I got ball security and I got win first down. Polo last week was able to put themselves in, 2nd, 3, 2nd, 4. They ran 5, 6 yards on first down. Amboy's too good of a defense. If you put yourself in 2nd and 10, 2nd and 11, against this Clipper defense, that's, I don't say you want to have to go away from game plan, but it's really going to make things tough sledding for the Marcos if they don't win first down here tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you there. For Polo, my first key, you got to get Mercer Mumford going.
Yep.
You have to have that rush game going, and it starts there with the All-Stater getting that going. Secondly, you have to have those big blocks up front from Wyatt Plackno and Damon Rao. Obviously, the other guys, Daniel Johnstone, Ethan Dewey, and Esteban Salinas, also need to do their part as well. Right. But if you're going to run behind the big boys, they have to be able to set that tone, set that edge to allow Mercer to get to the second level and then potentially further if he can get there. The other one, defensively, you need to keep Cody Wynn from having a big day. We've talked about that before, and we've heard Coach Payne talk about it. He wants to get their run game going to utilize the play action, and as stated, their play action is going to Cody Wynn. Right. So for Polo to find success here, you have to eliminate Cody Wynn from the game plan, and then you can start focusing on that run game, and that was my 4th key to this game for the Marcos. You have to be able to contain 2 of these 3 backs. You have to be able to shut 2 of them down. One of them's going to get their yards, and most likely it's going to be Lopez. You have to let him get his yards, almost a bend type of but don't break thing. But if you can shut down the other 2 guys, now you're really making them more into a one-dimensional team with the amount of players that they have that can hurt you.
Yeah, no doubt. Last week against South Fork, I mentioned this in our show earlier in the week, Cal, but last week in South Fork, that Polo defense, 13 times they tackled either Bailey or Van Hooser for a loss. If Polo can do even half of that tonight and, like I said, put Amboy in situations they necessarily don't want to be in, that could be huge for the Marco defense here tonight.
All right, let's go to the other side of the ball for the Amboy Clippers. What are your 3 keys to the game or keys to the game for the Clippers, Zachary?
Just going off your play action statement, they need to be able to establish the line of scrimmage, get the run game open, and open that up because they're very effective when they do decide to go through the air. And then can they use the advantage of it being their 4th straight title game, experience, momentum, and adrenaline run high in games like this.
You want to come on, Coach? Yeah, you can come on. Come on. Yeah. Oh, okay. Hey, we got a surprise guest here. We're gonna have Coach Alston step in here. Coach, we were able to play a clip earlier. Joe, go ahead and share your mic
All
with
right.
Coach Alston.
There you go, Coach.
We played a clip earlier that was ran through Sam Ramirez and Josh Dillon, and you were talking about how good Amboy is, and likewise, your team has a great amount of success as well. What do you feel are your keys that you need to do in order to find success here tonight against Amboy?
Well, I think for us, it's, shut down their run game, play good up, at the line of scrimmage and have sustained drives offensively. I think, but that's probably the case for both teams tonight.
Yeah, I would agree. Establishing the run game and then asserting yourself on the line of scrimmage will definitely be one of the biggest keys. How do you guys go to plan against their play action and eliminating Cody Wynn from being effective?
Easier said than done, but discipline in the defensive backfield, disciplined eyes in the defensive backfield is the key to stopping their play action.
And, as far as health-wise, you guys enter this game pretty healthy here tonight?
We're a little banged up after last week, so we'll see. A couple of kids have been not really practicing a huge amount this week, so we'll see how they fare out there when we get started.
One of the quotes that you said earlier tonight was you're going to tell your kids, this is potentially your last game you're ever going to be able to strap on the pads, go out there and leave it all on the field. That really hit home for me, and I know it did for Joe as well. You got extra pads I can put on tonight?
No.
I'm ineligible anyway. You don't want that. Well, Coach, we don't want to take up too much of your time. We see you guys got some of your guys out on the field already getting warmed up, but we want to wish you the best of luck tonight. Congratulations on making it to Monmouth, your 3rd state championship game. Obviously, we're going to crown a historic moment tonight, and maybe we'll be seeing you as the state champs when you leave here tonight.
Yeah, let's hope so. Thanks, guys.
You bet. Thank you. All right, Coach Ted Alston here before the start of the game. Great to have him stop in. Was not expecting that, but worked out perfectly as well. And, taking a look at what he stated, going back to the Amboy keys, what did you feel your keys were for Amboy?
Yeah, I just got a couple things down for Amboy. Obviously, you got to try to establish Lopez, and to set up that play action with Wynn. We've talked about it already. That's no surprise there. The other thing I have down for Amboy, and I think where Amboy is better than anybody else in 8-man football, and they have been the last 3 years, is their special teams. You got McNitch who can kick it deep, maybe bury teams at the 20. You got the possibility of an onside kick in the turf. But, Kyle, we've talked about it all season long. They're scoring either a defensive touchdown or a punt return or a kick return. Last week, Trevor Stensel had the block punt to set up the first touchdown. I mean, Amboy's special teams easily, guys, could be the difference in this ball game. If they make a big play on special teams, they could be the state champs here tonight for sure.
Zachary, we already went to you, so I'm going to say for Amboy, kind of opposite of what Polo needs to do. Amboy needs to stop Mumford. Yep. If you can stop Mumford, now you're going to put it on the hands of who I feel is the X factor for Polo tonight, and that's JT Stevenson. I think for Polo to have success, JT has to have success in order to pull some of that focus away from Mumford and then be able to establish that secondary option in that run game like we've seen out of them all season long. Amboy, too, has to be able to get their run game going, whether it be Caden Heath, Jose Lopez, or Colt McCoy. One of those 3 has to be able to find success. Last week, it was Jose Lopez. And I guarantee you, after talking to Coach Alston, Polo is definitely going to be focused on stopping Lopez. could that open up the door for Caden Heath or Colt McCoy to find success? And no, we're not talking about the Texas star Colt McCoy. We're talking about Amboy's Colt McCoy. There you go, Matt Surdick. I put it out there for you. And then also for Amboy, again, like we were just talking about with Coach Alston, Amboy, to find success, has to be able to get into that play action game. They're going to have to find ways to utilize Wynn in their game plan to get his speed out there. But if they can start doing that, again, like you said, they're going to find themselves winning another state championship here tonight.
Yeah, that's going to be one of the funnest matchups all night is you got two All-Staters going at Mercer Mumford covering Cody Wynn. I mean, you can't ask for a better cornerback wide receiver matchup in 8-man football than those two right there. That's going to be definitely fun to watch. Mumford had 2 interceptions last week against South Fork, and he's had couple, I think 3 games now this year with multiple interceptions. So it'll be interesting to see how Amboy, they know that too. Mumford's one of the top corners in the state. So we're going to see how things play out here. Kyle, I think one thing that needs to be mentioned here, we already talked to Coach Alston, but him and Coach Scott Payne, I mean, and this is no disrespect to anybody else in 8-man, but obviously 2 of the top coaching staffs in 8-man football. Well, let's not disregard that fact that also has something to do with why these teams are here, why these teams have the record they do this year and every year. I mean, these 2 coaching staffs are, I'm running out of superlatives.
Yeah. Well, that just tells you exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we're at. I mean, you said it best on our podcast earlier this week. If you go all the way back to 2019, when the playoffs expanded with more teams getting included into 8-man football, either Polo or Amboy have been in the state championship game every single year. And tonight we have both of them here.
Yeah. And listen to these numbers quick, guys. I know we're running out of time here, but Amboy in the last 3 years, counting this year and the 2 last years they won the state, they're 36-2 in the last 3 years. 36-2. Polo, since they've joined 8-man, so 6 years, they're 64-8. I mean, you got the 2 Goliaths of 8-man football here, guys, and they're finally meeting in this championship game. I don't think you can ask for a better matchup. No disrespect to anybody else, but this one's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's as Coach Matt Lang says, this is going to be a real Donnybrook here tonight. It's going to be a ton of fun. We're going to get a great matchup between 2 of the state powers that we've come to expect. These 2 teams have done nothing any other team in 8-man has done. They're both here in the state finals with the opportunity to get a 3rd state championship. Whoever wins it, it's going to be the first 3-time state champion in I8FA history. Both these teams have never missed the semifinals either.
Right.
So when you're talking about the 2 best programs, this bracket almost couldn't have worked out any better for these 2 teams to meet up for this opportunity to settle it on the field here at Monmouth College and April Zorn Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, you said it all, Kyle. I'm ready to go. Is it 7:00 yet?
Not yet. We still got a lot to go. We got the pregame show for TSSR Game Time Live coming up. So, make sure to tune into their YouTube channel for the pregame show. And then on top of that, they'll have the actual game is also going to be on TSSR Game Time Live on YouTube as well. I've already put the links out there to both of those shows on our Facebook and on our Twitter pages. So go out there and get on, or wherever you got to go to get on YouTube. TSSR Game Time Live will have this game. But before we end the show here and get ready for their pregame show, we got to go through who our picks are. Joe, you got the polo shirt on. We already know who you're going with.
20-16, Marcos. I'm not changing my pick from your show on yesterday.
All right, that sounds great. Zachary, what do you got?
I got Amboy winning tonight. I think they get the 3-peat done.
You got a score?
24-18.
Oh, that's almost close to what I got. I too have picked the Clippers. 28-20 is the score that I'm going with here. And either way, we're going to have a great game. I think, obviously, as we all 3 have anticipated and a lot of excitement has gone around, this game is definitely going to live up to the hype, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I expect to see a low-scoring first-half game, and then we might start to see the second half begin to open up a little bit.
Yeah, it should be fun. I don't know what the weather's going to do here, Kyle. It was raining earlier. It looks like it might have cleared up for now, but
I
There's a chance
took
of
a
rain,
look.
but-
I took a look at the forecast. The rain is moving out, so I don't think we're going to see much rain being a factor in the game tonight.
Oh, that's good. All right, let's do this.
All
I'm ready.
right.
I'm ready for some football.
So get ready for some I8FA state championship coverage here tonight. Shim Dog's going to be on the sidelines with the camera going. You can touch into WLLTradio.com to see Joe Murdian and hear his call. And I'll be live on the Twitter sphere, updating scores both there and on Facebook. But until then, like I said, go to TSSR Game Time Live on YouTube to get the pregame show action going on. I'll be on there here in about a half hour or so, probably talking about the same things we just did here. But either way, it's going to be a ton of fun to see what they have. They also have coaches interviews going on with both Coach Alston and Coach Payne. And then kickoff at 7 p.m. here tonight. Going to be a ton of fun. Looking for a big crowd, both in viewership and here at April Zorn Memorial Stadium. Until then, we'll see you later.